She was about to say, "I do," to the rich sheriff. But outside the church, the only man she ever truly loved was walking away, forever broken heart. She stood at the church door, white dress trembling in the wind, eyes locked on the man she was about to marry, the rich sheriff of the town. The whole village was watching, whispering, admiring the power, the money, the perfect match. But her heart was somewhere else. Far away, beyond the dusty road, beyond the golden fields, stood the cowboy. The poor cowboy who had nothing but a worn hat, a tired horse, and a love he never confessed fully, because he knew she didn't belong to his world. Her father had forced this marriage. The sheriff had promised safety, land, status, everything a broken town girl was supposed to dream of. But she never dreamed of gold. She dreamed of him. As she stepped forward into the church, the sheriff smiled proudly, adjusting his badge, believing he had already won her heart. But outside, unseen by everyone, the cowboy was watching from a distance, hiding behind the wooden fence, his jaw clenched, his hands shaking. He had come just to see her, one last time. Inside, the priest began the ceremony. "Do you take this man?" Her breath stopped. Memories hit her like thunder. The cowboy catching her when she fell from the horse. The cowboy sharing water when she was thirsty. The cowboy silently fixing her broken fence at night so no one would know. The cowboy never asking for anything, except her smile. Her eyes filled with tears. The sheriff leaned closer, whispering, "Say yes, this town is finally ours." Outside, the cowboy turned away, unable to watch anymore. He mounted his horse slowly, like every movement was breaking him inside. Inside the church, silence stretched. The whole town waited for her answer. And then, her voice trembled. "I." The doors creaked slightly as the wind pushed through. The cowboy paused on his horse. And for a moment, everything stopped. If this love story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more emotional romance stories every week. And tell me in the comments, would you choose the safe life, or the person who makes you feel alive? "I." Her voice broke in the middle of the church, eyes trembling as every stare in the room pressed down on her like a heavy chain. The sheriff tightened his grip on her hand, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Finish it," he whispered coldly. "Everyone is watching." But she wasn't listening anymore. Outside, the cowboy's horse slowly stepped forward on the dusty road. He didn't look back at first. He couldn't. His chest felt like it was burning from the inside. Inside her mind, everything was louder than the priest's voice. The laughter they once shared under the sunset. The way he gave her his coat when the cold wind hit. The way he never touched her like she was something to own, but something to protect. Her breath shook. "I," she said again, softer this time. The priest paused, confused. The whole town leaned in, sensing something was wrong. The sheriff's smile faded slightly. "Say yes," he repeated, more firmly now. But her eyes slowly drifted toward the church doors. And through the thin crack of light, she saw him, the cowboy, just for a second, standing there like a memory refusing to disappear. Her heart shattered in silence. Outside, the cowboy finally turned his head, and their eyes met. A moment. A single moment. Enough to destroy everything she was supposed to become. Inside, she pulled her hand slightly away from the sheriff's grip. The crowd gasped. And then, she whispered something no one expected. "I can't." The church fell into dead silence. "I can't." Her words echoed like a gunshot through the wooden walls. The sheriff's expression hardened instantly. "What did you say?" he asked, low and dangerous, tightening his grip on her hand so hard it hurt. But she didn't look at him. Her eyes were still on the doors. On him. Outside, the cowboy stood frozen on his horse, like he already knew what was coming, but still couldn't believe it. Inside, the priest stepped back, confused, unsure whether to continue. The guests started whispering louder. "Is she insane? Does she want to ruin everything? She's humiliating the sheriff." But she barely heard them. All she could hear was her own heartbeat, and the memory of every moment she had hidden in her soul. The sheriff leaned closer, anger now slipping through his calm mask. "You don't embarrass me in front of this town." Her hand trembled, but she finally pulled it away from him. The crowd gasped again. A chair scraped loudly. Someone stood up. Outside, the cowboy finally took one step forward, like his heart was dragging him closer even when he knew he shouldn't. Inside, she took a shaky breath. "I can't marry you," she said louder this time. The sheriff's face turned cold. "Because," she continued, voice breaking, tears falling freely now, "my heart already belongs to someone else." A storm of shock erupted inside the church. And outside, the cowboy froze completely. The church erupted into chaos. Whispers turned into shouting. Guests stood up from their seats. The priest stepped back, crossing himself, unsure whether he was witnessing love or destruction. The sheriff didn't move at first. He just stared at her, as if trying to understand how something he had already won could suddenly slip through his fingers. Then his voice dropped, calm but deadly. "Say that again." She wiped her tears, but she didn't look away this time. "I said, my heart belongs to someone else." The words hit harder the second time. The sheriff let out a slow breath, his jaw tightening. "And who exactly do you think that is?" Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence filled the church. Her lips trembled. She didn't answer. But outside, the cowboy had heard everything. He stood still on his horse, frozen in the middle of the dusty road, like the entire world had stopped just to judge that moment. His fingers slowly loosened on the reins. He should leave. He should disappear like he always did when life got too close to happiness. But he couldn't. Inside the church, the sheriff stepped closer to her again, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You think he can give you anything? He has nothing. No land. No name. No future." Her tears fell harder, but her voice didn't break this time. "I don't care." That hit harder than any insult. The sheriff's eyes darkened. "So that's it," he said quietly. "You're choosing a broke cowboy over a man who can own this entire town?" She finally turned her face toward him fully. "No," she whispered. "I'm choosing love over power." A collective gasp spread through the church. Outside, the cowboy closed his eyes for a second, like those words were the only thing keeping him alive. Inside, the sheriff's patience snapped. He let go of her hand abruptly. "Then go," he said coldly. "Go run to your cowboy." The church doors suddenly creaked as a strong wind slammed them wider. And in that exact moment, everything was about to change forever. The doors of the church swung open wider with a violent gust of wind, scattering dust across the aisle like a warning from fate itself. Every eye turned. And there he was, the cowboy, standing at the threshold, hat lowered, face half-shadowed, as if he had been pulled there against his own will by the weight of her words. No one spoke. Even the sheriff froze. For a second, it felt like the entire town was holding its breath. Her eyes met his, and everything she had been holding inside finally broke free. The sheriff stepped between them slightly, blocking her view. "You've got nerve showing your face here," he said coldly. The cowboy didn't respond immediately. He just looked at her. Not at the sheriff. Not at the crowd. Only her. "I didn't come to fight," the cowboy finally said, voice low and steady. "I came because she deserves to choose without being trapped." The sheriff let out a sharp laugh. "Trapped? She's about to become my wife." The cowboy took one slow step forward into the church. Dust on his boots. Pain in his eyes. Love he refused to bury anymore. "She never belonged to you," he said quietly. The sheriff's hand moved toward his gun. Gasps filled the room. But the cowboy didn't flinch. Instead, he turned slightly toward her. His voice softened. "I'm leaving after this," he said. "I just needed to hear it from you, not from a memory I can't let go of." Her lips parted. Tears fell faster now. The entire world blurred except him. The sheriff looked between them, realizing for the first time, he wasn't fighting a man. He was fighting a truth. And then, she took a small step forward. She took one step forward, then another. The church felt smaller with every movement, like the walls were closing in just to witness what she was about to do. The sheriff grabbed her arm again. "Don't do this," he said sharply. "You will regret it." But this time, she didn't even look at him. Her eyes were locked on the cowboy. The cowboy stood still, like he was afraid that if he moved, the moment would disappear. "I already regret living a lie," she whispered. Her voice was soft, but it cut deeper than a shout. The sheriff's grip tightened. "You think he can save you from what you're throwing away? From this town? From everything I've given you?" She finally turned her head slightly toward him. And her answer was calm. "I don't need saving." That silence hit harder than any argument. The sheriff slowly released her arm, confused, almost stunned by how far she had already gone emotionally. Outside the church windows, the wind howled again, like the world itself was reacting. The cowboy took another step forward inside. Now only a few feet separated them. Every heartbeat in the room was loud enough to hear. He spoke first. "Tell me to leave," he said quietly. "And I will." Her breath shook. She looked at him like she was memorizing him, one last time, or maybe for the first time without fear. The sheriff suddenly stepped in again, anger rising. "Enough of this. This is my wedding." But no one was listening to him anymore. Not even her. The cowboy's voice lowered. "I waited," he said. "I waited for you to choose your life. Even if it wasn't me." A tear rolled down her cheek. "And now," she whispered. The cowboy's answer came without hesitation. "Now I can't pretend I don't love you anymore." The church went completely silent. Even the sheriff stopped breathing for a moment. And then, she made her final move. She stood in the center of the church, trembling, but no longer afraid. Every eye was on her. Every breath in the room waited for the ending. The sheriff spoke one last time, voice low and sharp. "If you walk out that door, don't come back expecting anything from me. No protection. No respect. Nothing." She looked at him for a long moment. Not with hate. Not with fear. Just truth. "I never asked you for those things," she said quietly. That broke something in him. For the first time, the sheriff had nothing to say. Silence swallowed the room. The cowboy stood near the doorway now, still waiting, still not daring to hope. She slowly turned toward him. Every step she took felt heavier than the last life she was leaving behind. Whispers rose again, but faded quickly as she moved closer to the exit. The sheriff's voice cracked slightly. "You're making a mistake." But she didn't stop. She reached the cowboy. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Just breathing. Just looking. Years of pain. Distance. Silence. All standing between two hearts that never stopped choosing each other. Finally, she whispered, "I choose you." The cowboy closed his eyes like he had been holding his breath his entire life. The sheriff stepped back, defeated, watching the one thing he could never control slip away. Outside, the wind softened. Inside, the church felt empty even with people still in it. The cowboy gently reached for her hand, but waited. A question without words. She placed her hand in his. And that was the answer. They walked out together, past judgment, past fear, past everything that tried to own her. Behind them, the church doors slowly closed. And the sheriff stood alone in the silence he thought was victory, but was actually loss. Outside, the cowboy finally spoke. "You sure?" he asked softly. She looked at him one last time. "Yes," she said. "For the first time, I am." And they rode away into a future no one in that town could control.